There's a question that finds us sometimes in a quiet moment, perhaps when we're between tasks or just before sleep. It's a whisper, almost too faint to hear over the noise of our days. It asks, is this it? We've become so adept at filling our time. We curate our lives into streams of images and achievements. We move from one notification to the next, from one obligation to another, and we call this progress. We call this living. But if you were to stop, truly stop, and look at the architecture of your days, what would you see? Is it a life you are building, or simply a series of distractions, elegantly arranged? The waste I speak of is not the waste of time, though that is part of it. It is the waste of self. It is the profound tragedy of allowing your unique light, your curiosity, your passion, your capacity for wonder, and for love to be dimmed by the mundane. To be buried under a mountain of shoulds and have-tos that were never truly yours to begin with. We speak of wasting time as if it were the ultimate loss, and indeed, it is a significant one. But time is a container. It is the vessel that holds our existence. The greater tragedy, the more profound and personal loss, is the waste of what that vessel was meant to carry, the unique and irreplaceable essence of who you are. This is the quiet catastrophe of a life half lived, not because it was short, but because the music that was within you never found its way into the world. Each person is born with a particular signature of curiosity, a specific spectrum of passion, a unique capacity for wonder and for love. This is your native language, the truest expression of your being. Yet, from a very young age, we are gently, systematically, taught to translate ourselves into a more common tongue. We learn to prioritize practicality over passion, security over sincerity, and the approval of others over the quiet approval of our own soul. We consent to a slow, imperceptible dimming. We turn down the volume on our own inner voice so we can better hear the chorus of external expectations, what we should do, who we should be, what constitutes a successful life. This dimming is not a single event, it is 1,000 small surrenders. It is the creative writing major who becomes an accountant because it is a safer path. It is the musician who stops playing because life became too busy. It is the person who feels a deep connection to nature but remains in a city apartment year after year because moving would be inconvenient. It is the suppression of a quirky sense of humor in a serious boardroom, the silencing of a controversial but heartfelt opinion to maintain social harmony. Each of these is a small betrayal of the self. We bury our most authentic impulses under a mountain of have-tos and suppose-tos that were never truly ours to carry. We build a life that looks impressive on the outside but feels hollow on the inside because it was constructed with materials chosen by someone else. The waste is in the dissonance between the life you are living and the life you feel in your bones you were meant to live. It is the gnawing feeling of being an imposter in your own story, of playing a role written by your parents, your culture, your peers. This dissonance creates a low, grade hum of anxiety, a persistent sadness that is often misdiagnosed as depression or discontent. We try to medicate it with consumption, with distraction, with achievements, but the hum remains because its source is not a chemical imbalance, but a soul imbalance. It is the cry of a self that is being suffocated. This is not to say that life is meant to be a relentless pursuit of euphoria, or that every dream must be followed to its conclusion regardless of consequence. Responsibility and reality have their claims, but there is a vast difference between making a conscious compromise and living a life of unconscious capitulation. The former is a choice made with awareness. The latter is a slow erosion of the self. The waste occurs when we stop even hearing the whisper of our authentic desires, when we become so accustomed to the translated version of ourselves that we forget our native language entirely. The antidote is not a sudden, dramatic upheaval, though that may sometimes be necessary. It begins with the subtle and courageous act of listening. It requires creating pockets of silence in your life where the static of the external world fades enough for you to hear that inner voice again. What makes your heart feel light? What activity causes you to lose all track of time? What conversation topic makes you feel truly, vibrantly alive? These are not frivolous questions. They are the compass points of your authentic self. To stop wasting your life is to honor these whispers. It is to reintroduce yourself to yourself. It is to grant that hidden, perhaps neglected, part of you not just audience, but authority. It means making choices, even small ones, that are aligned with that core identity. It is the decision to write for 15 minutes a day, to walk in the woods every weekend, to finally have that difficult conversation, to wear the clothes that feel like you, to listen to the music that moves your soul. It is the daily, deliberate practice of turning the light back up, degree by degree, until you are no longer a dimmed version of someone else's ideal, but a fully illuminated, gloriously imperfect, and authentically yours original. The world does not need another perfect replica. It needs the singular, unedited masterpiece of you. We are all gifted with a unique and irreplicable combination of talents, perspectives, and passions. This is the raw material of a meaningful life. Yet, so many of us make the tragic error of treating this precious inner resource as if it were infinite, something to be spent carelessly or stored away indefinitely for a someday that never arrives. We fall into the trap of believing that life is a preparation for something else, a long overture before the real opera begins. We tell ourselves, I will truly start living when I finish school, when I get the right job, when I have more money, when the children are older, when I retire. This is the most seductive and dangerous form of self-deception. This habit of postponement creates a phantom life, a brilliant, perfect existence that lives only in the future tense. It is a life free from the messiness of real effort, the sting of potential failure, and the complications of the present moment. We take comfort in this phantom because it demands nothing of us now except patience. But this patience is not a virtue. It is a form of spiritual procrastination. It is the agreement we make with ourselves to exchange the vivid, imperfect reality of today for the safe, flawless fantasy of tomorrow. The tragedy is that tomorrow is a horizon that perpetually recedes. We spend our entire lives walking towards it, never arriving, while the actual landscape of our existence, the only one we will ever have, passes by unnoticed. The architecture of a wasted life is built with the bricks of later. Each time we delay a heartfelt conversation, suppress a creative impulse, or ignore a call to adventure because the timing isn't perfect, we lay another brick. We are building a wall between ourselves and our own existence. We become spectators to our own potential, watching the movie of what our life could be while the real, tangible opportunity of the present moment flickers and fades. The energy we should be pouring into the act of living is instead diverted into the exhausting work of maintaining the fantasy. We must constantly reassure ourselves that someday is still coming, that our best years are ahead of us, all while the evidence of our current disengagement mounts around us. This deception is reinforced by a culture obsessed with milestones and destinations. We are conditioned to see life as a linear path with a finish line: education, career, family, retirement. We rush from one checkpoint to the next, believing that happiness and fulfillment are waiting for us at the end of the sequence. But life is not a journey with a destination. It is a series of moments, strung together like beads on a string. The quality of your life is not determined by the final bead, but by the texture and color of each individual moment you hold. When you are constantly focused on the next bead, your fingers are never truly touching the one you have now. You are missing the experience of your own life as it happens. The most profound shift you can make is to realize that there is no real life waiting to begin. The curtain is already up. The performance started the moment you drew your first breath. This is not a rehearsal. The conversations you are having today, the work you are doing at this very minute, the silence you are filling with worry or with wonder, this is it. This is the raw material of your legacy. The dream you have for someday can only be built with the moments of today. The book you want to write begins with a sentence written now. The relationship you want to heal starts with a single word of honesty spoken today. The adventure you crave is waiting in a decision made this afternoon. To stop wasting your life is to collapse the distance between now and later. It is to drag the future into the present and demand that it take root in the soil of today's actions. It is to understand that the perfect conditions for living will never arrive. Life is inherently messy, uncertain, and imperfect. The courage to begin anyway, to embrace the mess, and to find the beauty within the uncertainty, is the very essence of being alive. Stop waiting for the storm to pass. Learn to dance in the rain. Your life is not waiting for you on the other side of the horizon. It is pulsing right here in the beat of your own heart. The only time you ever truly have to change its course is now. The call to stop wasting your life can feel overwhelming, like being asked to scale a mountain in a single bound. We envision a complete upheaval, quitting our job, moving across the world, making a grand and dramatic gesture that signals a definitive break with the past. This vision, while compelling, is often a trap. It sets the bar for change so high that we never begin, convincing us that since we cannot make the grand gesture today, we must remain exactly as we are. The true path to reclamation is far more subtle, far more patient, and ultimately, far more powerful. It is found not in the earthquake, but in the countless, almost invisible shifts of the tectonic plates of our daily habits. This is the power of micro-revolutions. A micro-revolution is a small, deliberate act of defiance against the inertia of an unexamined life. It is a choice so seemingly insignificant that it often goes unnoticed by the outside world, but which rings like a clarion call within the chambers of your own soul. It is the decision to wake up 15 minutes earlier not to check email, but to sit with a cup of tea and simply stare out the window, reclaiming a fragment of silence. It is choosing to walk without a podcast filling your ears, allowing your own thoughts to surface. It is the act of closing a social media app and opening a book, even if only for 5 pages. It is writing one sincere sentence in a journal instead of composing a witty tweet. It is choosing a difficult, honest conversation over a comfortable, dishonest silence. The genius of the micro-revolution is that it bypasses the resistance of the psyche. Our minds, wired for efficiency and comfort, will violently rebel against a massive, sudden change. But a small change, a 5-minute change, the mind barely registers it as a threat. It is a Trojan horse for transformation. Each micro-evolution is a vote for the person you wish to become. Individually, each vote seems to carry little weight. But elections are won by the accumulation of votes, and identities are forged by the accumulation of choices. You are not a fixed entity. You are a river, shaped by the consistent, minute particles of action and intention that you allow to flow through you day after day. This focus on the micro shifts our attention from the distant, abstract goal, a meaningful life, to the immediate, tangible present. You cannot build a meaningful life today. That is too vast a project. But you can today perform one meaningful act. You can choose depth in a single moment. You can choose connection in one interaction. You can choose creativity for one brief period. The quality of a life is not an abstract concept. It is the sum total of the quality of its moments. By elevating the quality of this moment and then the next, you are not working toward a better life. You are living a better life right now in this very instant. These small acts are the practice of listening to your authentic self. Every time you choose the walk over the scroll, the book over the stream, the silence over the noise, you are sending a message to the deepest part of you. You matter. Your needs are important. I am listening. This is how you rebuild a relationship with a self you may have neglected for years. You don't start with a grand declaration. You start with small, consistent acts of attention and kindness. You rebuild trust with yourself by proving, in 1,000 tiny ways, that you can be counted on to honor your own well-being. The grand gesture, if it ever comes, will then be a natural outgrowth of this daily practice, not a desperate attempt to escape it. The person who has spent a year waking up early to write will have a manuscript. The person who has consistently chosen honest conversations will have deeper relationships. The micro-evolutions are the quiet, relentless work of laying a new foundation, brick by brick. One day you will look up and realize you are no longer standing on the shaky ground of distraction and postponement. You are standing on something solid, something you built yourself, one small, deliberate choice at a time. The mountain was not scaled in a single bound. It was climbed one deliberate, unwavering step at a time. And the view from each new vantage point, no matter how slight the elevation, is a reclamation of the life you were wasting. The most common and tragic misallocation of resources in our modern world is not of money, but of something far more fundamental: our attention, our time, and our emotional capacity. We treat these priceless assets as if they were limitless, allowing them to be scattered and drained by 1,000 trivial demands and distractions. We complain of not having enough time, while simultaneously donating our most focused hours to the bottomless pit of digital chatter. We speak of being too busy for what matters, yet our schedules are filled with obligations that leave our souls feeling thin and malnourished. To stop wasting your life is to become a fierce and intentional investor of these core currencies. It is to move from a state of leakage to a state of purposeful allocation. This begins with a ruthless and honest audit. Where does your attention truly go each day? Track it not with judgment, but with the curiosity of a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. You may discover that the resource you claim is so scarce, your focus is being spent in vast quantities on things that provide no return in joy, depth, or connection. It is invested in the curated highlight reels of strangers, in the outrage of the news cycle, in the passive consumption of content designed to keep you scrolling, but never to make you think or feel more deeply. This is the equivalent of pouring your life savings into a company that produces nothing of value. The returns are emptiness, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of lack. Intentional investment, therefore, requires a conscious withdrawal from these speculative, toxic markets. It means creating boundaries not as walls to keep life out, but as gates to ensure your precious resources flow toward what you have deemed truly valuable. This is the practice of saying no to the event that will only drain you, saying no to the project that does not align with your purpose, saying no to the conversation that circles around gossip and complaint. Every no is a powerful yes to something else. It is a yes to an hour of deep work on a project you care about. A yes to a quiet walk with a loved one. A yes to the rest your body desperately needs. A yes to the book that has been waiting on your nightstand. This philosophy extends profoundly to the investment of your emotional and intellectual capital. Your empathy, your curiosity, your capacity for deep conversation, these are not bottomless wells. They require protection and mindful expenditure. Investing them intentionally means choosing to engage in conversations that challenge and expand you, rather than those that simply reinforce your existing views. It means seeking out relationships that are reciprocal, where energy is given and received, rather than those that are parasitic, draining you for a semblance of connection. It means putting your emotional resources into mending a valued relationship rather than nursing a grudge. A grudge is a terrible investment. It costs you dearly in present, moment peace, and yields absolutely nothing. The ultimate question to ask of any activity, relationship, or commitment is not, is it good or bad, but what is the return on investment for my life? Does this hour spent scrolling return a sense of connection, of peace, of growth? Or does it return a sense of fragmentation and inadequacy? Does this friendship leave me feeling replenished and seen, or depleted and misunderstood? Does this work engage my unique talents and contribute to a sense of purpose, or is it merely a transaction of time for money? When you begin to evaluate your life through this lens, the path forward becomes startlingly clear. You start to divest from the activities and relationships that bankrupt your spirit, and you begin to invest heavily in those that yield compound interest in well-being, meaning, and authentic connection. This is not a selfish act, it is the opposite. You cannot give what you do not have. A depleted person has nothing to offer the world but their exhaustion. By becoming a wise investor of your own life's resources, you fill your reserve. You build a foundation of strength, clarity, and peace. From that place of abundance, your contributions to the world become more potent, more genuine, and more sustainable. You stop wasting your life by scattering your seeds on barren ground, and you begin the patient, intentional work of planting a garden that will feed your soul for a lifetime. We often treat our lives as if they were a dress rehearsal. We approach our dreams, our relationships, and our deepest callings with a tentative spirit, as if we are practicing for a future performance where the stakes will be higher and our actions will finally count. This mindset grants us a dangerous permission to hold back. We tell ourselves that it's okay to make a half-hearted attempt because we can always try again for real later. We see our current circumstances as provisional, a temporary stage on the way to our real life. But this is a profound and costly illusion. The brutal, beautiful truth is that this is the performance. The curtain is up, the lights are on, and the audience of your own consciousness is watching right now. This rehearsal mentality is a defense mechanism against the terrifying weight of authenticity. To live with full commitment is to accept the possibility of true, meaningful failure. It is far safer to never truly try, to always have the excuse of I wasn't really giving my all. But this safety is a prison. It protects you from the sting of failure, but it also bars you from the transformative power of genuine effort. A rehearsal is meant to be imperfect. It's a space for mistakes that will be corrected before the real thing. But if every day is a rehearsal, then every mistake is simply a note for a performance that never arrives. There is no growth, only endless preparation. Your potential becomes a beautiful, frozen statue, admired from a distance, but never alive, never breathing, never interacting with the world. The shift from rehearsal to performance requires a fundamental acceptance of imperfection. It demands that you relinquish the fantasy of the flawless execution and embrace the messy, unpredictable, and often glorious reality of doing. The musician who only practices in a soundproof room may achieve technical perfection, but they have never felt the electricity of a live audience, never experienced the unique alchemy that can only happen when art is risked in real time. Similarly, the life lived as a rehearsal may be tidy and safe, but it is devoid of the raw, unscripted moments that constitute a life truly lived. It is in the imperfections, the stumbled words, the unexpected detours, the courageous attempts that fall short, that our character is forged and our story becomes interesting. This urgency is not about panic or frantic activity. It is about presence. It is about the decision to fully inhabit this moment, this conversation, this task, with the understanding that it is not a practice run. The love you offer today is the real love you have given. The work you create today is the real legacy you are building. The kindness you extend today is the real impact you have made. There is no separate, more important version of these events waiting in the future. The future will be built upon the foundation of the choices you are making at this very second. When you understand that this is the main event, your attention sharpens, your intentions clarify, and your actions gain a new weight and significance. To stop wasting your life is to kill the rehearsal and commit to the live show. It is to step onto the stage of your own existence without a net, without a guaranteed script, and to speak your lines with conviction, even if your voice shakes. It is to understand that a life filled with passionate attempts and interesting failures is infinitely more valuable than a life of flawless preparation for an event that never comes. The scrapes and bruises you earn from engaging fully with the world are the badges of a life lived in truth. They are proof that you showed up, that you dared to be present for your own existence. Don't wait for the perfect conditions, the perfect partner, the perfect version of yourself. That moment will not arrive. The only time you ever have to live is now, in all its imperfect, urgent, and breathtaking reality. This is not the practice. This is it.